Hi, I'm Gene Bergman, Ward 2 City Councilor, and we are here tonight with the Burlington Progressives TV show. We do this monthly and get a chance to talk to people in the community, on the City Council, throughout the state. We have talked about the state budget and state tax policy. We've talked about climate change and thermal energy networks. We've had people here from the UVM Staff Support Union talking about the struggles that they've had over livable wages and working conditions. And it was just before their union negotiations, which were successfully concluded. Very pleased that we were able to talk to them about that. We've talked about the state hotel voucher program and state policy, and the progressive city council agenda and police oversight. I mean, we have really gone the gamut in the months that we've been doing this, and tonight I am so happy to be here with my friend and sister, Milo Grant, who is the Central District City Councilor, which encompasses the entire Old North End. I just represent Ward 2. And
Wards 2 and 3.
So you got us both.
Yep. And
we're here tonight because Milo is an expert on public safety. She's got lots of history on it.
Try.
And you do. And so we're just gonna talk about public safety. We're gonna talk about the Old North End, and we'll talk about other city matters that pop up. And we're just gonna give you primarily, I'm gonna riff.
Ooh, okay.
You know, the opportunity to talk.
Okay.
So let me just ask you an opening. It's a softball question,
okay.
You know, and that is, how has being on the city council been for you?
Wow, it's been really difficult.
Okay.
Actually, it's been really difficult. I thank you for your support. Thank Joe. Thank Zariah. It's been really difficult. I have to think a lot about how I move. There's a certain way that I communicate. The truth matters, right?
Yes,
Words matter, how we talk to people, how we, the term transparency is thrown around a lot, and things are not actually transparent, and that's of grave concern. Milo, you can't say that. Why can't I say that? Why are you trying to control the information that I'm trying to give?
This would be sometimes interactions at the council itself.
Sometimes interactions at the council itself. You're going over your time. Well, other people go over their time.
I'm a wicked, not victim, but person who does that. Yeah.
And so I have to think about that, like to be having to use my phone to keep track now, because I'll be cut off. And I'm like, but I'm not out at my 5 minutes. I'm not. And then sometimes to be said, well, you have to give an update, not talk about the issue. What? Like, what does that mean? It's an update should be providing information that the citizens of Burlington need.
It's hard to be the people's representative when you're operating in a setting which is really outside the ken of the people, how people
right, and there's a lot
acting.
of control over. I think that that particular incident a few weeks ago, where it's like, oh, you have to do an update, not talk about the issue. That really disturbed me greatly. Like, what do you mean? Like, why are you trying to determine the information that I give? Because you're not comfortable with the subject matter. That's a huge problem. And I am greatly concerned about that. And I kind of feel lately like I've been well behaved. And I've tried to do it a certain way. And now I think I'm going to be a lot lot
assertive.
I can't imagine if I can be more assertive than I've already been. So but there's that whole angry black woman stereotype, right? There's that, oh, she's difficult. Oh, she can't be reasoned with.
Part of the systemic challenges that we've got to have a democracy which truly lets everybody sit at the table.
Lets everybody sit at the table.
And also participate.
Exactly. And we know that in the Old North End, we haven't gotten the same respect that the rest of the city has gotten. That's just facts. We know, for example, the mayor, he does public engagement by doing his weekly coffees. They're always in the new North End. He never does them in the Old North End, never. And he doesn't do them anyplace else. And why is that, right? Why do we not? Speaking of public engagement, I need to do more of it. I meet a lot with people individually. I email with people. I sometimes have calls. I do a lot of meetings at Scout, having tea and things. I've been concentrating on meeting people such as, when I joined the Public Safety Committee, I met with the fire chief because I wanted to learn more about Chief LaChance and the fire department, especially the work that they do in public safety. And we can get to that in a moment. And I tried to meet as many city directors as I could. The learning curve for this job is huge.
Yeah, no, this is a real full-time job.
Yes, and to
you know,
juggle it with my other full-time job.
Yeah, for $5,000 a year. I mean, it's nothing.
It is not. When you think the taxes come out, that barely covers my takeout.
Yeah.
Because I have no time to cook. I do not cook since I've been a counselor. It's I get takeout for lunch. I get a big lunch, which I eat lunch and I eat dinner because I'm always have a meeting afterwards. And we, because there's fewer of us, we're on more committees. And at one point I was on 4 committees because I was on the committee to choose people who want to be on committees and commissions.
Yep, was on that with you,
You have a week where you have a council meeting on a Monday, committee meeting Tuesday, Wednesdays, Thursdays, and I still try and get my radio show in. So it's a lot. And so I've been doing, meeting people in the community. I've met not only with residents, but with business, representatives from businesses, and talking a lot about public safety, going down and looking at what people are concerned about in our community.
So what committees are you on?
I'm on the REIB committee,
Which is?
Racial Equity, Inclusion, and Belonging. I am on the Public Safety Committee. I am on the Licensing, Liquor Control, Cannabis Control meeting, in addition to the Committee on Committees. I'm not sure what that official name of it is, when it does need to meet to choose people. So
those are hefty committees.
Yes, but the Public Safety Committee didn't meet this month, right?
It's because we don't have a crisis.
I'm a little upset about that. I've been a counselor since April, and twice now there are months have gone by without a Public Safety Committee meeting. And I think that's outrageous considering everything that's going on in the city, but I'm not the chair of that committee. So I can't control that. I tried to see if maybe 2 of us could, but by the time we got to the end of the month with Thanksgiving, then people weren't available, and we should have scheduled it at the beginning. I think there's a lot of things to talk about, so I feel a little bit powerless in that sense. If someone doesn't have the time to do that because they want to run for mayor, then maybe somebody else should be doing it, right? I think that's a serious question. You can't say that you're concerned about public safety and then you don't have a Public Safety Committee meeting. That's that's the thing that bugs me today.
Yeah. So talk to us about the way that you're seeing public safety issues.
So just as a quick recap, after the Millie Brothers incident and that use of force case and the lawsuits that came to the city, I applied to and was accepted for the special committee on policing policies, and I learned a lot. I went in there with an open mind. I was a sponge. I want to learn about.
You're not coming from this as a politician. You're coming into this as somebody who's lived in this community for
exactly,
ever.
And that affected my community in a way that I still don't think some members of our council fully understand and that the police department doesn't fully understand. Still to this day, it resonated. That's why I talk a lot about community engagement, but I'll come back to that in a moment. But I was on that committee. I was concerned that we needed to do more work. I felt that the council at the time was just trying to speed everything up, say, you got to come up with something to kind of check off the box. There was a lack of vision with regards to the problems that we did have, and that we needed to be discussing them long term.
Problems in the department, problems on the street.
Both.
Yeah.
Problems in the department. I mean, especially with the lack of community engagement, the issues around racial equity in policing. I was really concerned in 2019. There was a 7 Days article, anyone can go look it up, called Force Reboot. And it talked about the long-term problems of our department, which included turnover. Turnover has been a long-term issue. It talked about the morale issues.
2019.
2019.
Yeah, because, people say that we have caused, this exodus, or we defunded the police, even though we didn't take a dime out of the department.
It's so frustrating that people don't understand the root causes, and it's so frustrating to have members of our department allow that, based when people call for help. We were defunded. We don't have any. It was like there was no vote that fired officers. They had already been leaving, which is why the vote said attrition. And then they just started leaving faster. And then they said it was politics. But they forgot how people get elected. It's a representative democracy. People are being underserved. People weren't being treated right when they asked for help. So they voted for people that they felt could help them to either make things better or to bring in other positions. Because the other thing was, I heard repeatedly from officers that encountering the number of incidents that involve mental health issues, they weren't prepared for that. They weren't trained for that. We heard that repeatedly.
I mean, it's sort of like teachers in schools. We ask the schools to do everything.
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 And as we know, we now have a drug crisis, substance abuse disorder that, because of fentanyl, has really changed the game. So from that committee, I then applied to be on the police commission because I was like, well, I see the work that needs to be done. Maybe I can make a difference here. That was quite the experience because it became, if you say certain things out loud, so that there was a lot of.
So you give me an example on that?
I think to be having frank and honest conversations about equity in policing, racial disparities, lack of public engagement. You can't say that you don't want to stay in a city because the people who live in the city don't appreciate you, don't like you, or it's the politics, and then not address why these feelings exist. That is huge. And that lack of engagement, that lack of addressing why officers feel this way, and I've tried to talk to the mayor about it, said to Mayor Weinberger, no one has done an honest look and addressing why officers feel the way they feel. Even as of today, that's just not being done. And he said to me, why, you think they're lying? And I said, I never said they were lying. I understand exactly what they said. I on the commission, I said, August 21, I believe, I said they took this internal survey. It shows a lot of concerns around morale. They should do a presentation at the police commission, which they did, and it's available for people to look at, and they should. I said, we've never addressed it. I didn't say I didn't believe them. So that's another thing that bothers me, this twisting of language. Oh, you said they lie. I never called them liars. Why would you say that? I said, we're not addressing it. At some point, you have to look in the mirror and say, what can I do better?
In a lot of ways, that is just the status quo of politics, where you try to weaponize language.
Yes.
It's particularly hard when, you know, the people that you're trying to move, the mayor is one, have such thin skins and twist things for political advantage. And we've seen that.
Political. Everything is so political. And I've tried to really stay above that, because it's not, the safety of the city should not be politicized, period. And people are doing it. And we have, I've got to focus because I can go all over. But it's very difficult because it's prevented change. You know, this idea that if certain people are in power, things are going to be better. No, the underlying issues still exist. The underlying issues are not being addressed.
So give me some examples.
Sure.
Of what you know, and of what you think could be done, should be done, and sort of where that stuff would happen. You know, does it, I mean, happen in, you know, through the Public Safety Committee or through the Commission or, you know, other places?
I would like, so in terms of public engagement, I think that there needs to be a frank talk about customer service. Like, how do you answer the phone? How do you talk to people? There were a lot of things that were based on, that were kind of put on the backs of dispatch in terms of the shortage of dispatch, because there's a labor shortage there too, and that someone being new. But when you listen to complaints and you listen to audio, it's like, no, they started with the dispatcher, but they ended up with officer in charge. So it's not all on dispatch. We need to look at what was said. There's a lot of pushback when there's simple, you know, can we do some retraining? Can we bring up how people are talked to? Right? I tried to advocate for people when I was on the police commission, advocating for people who live next to a drug house.
Right.
And were asking for help. And when they would call, they would be told, what do you expect because you live next to Section 8 housing? Or what do you expect because you live where I live? And this is literally within 5-minute walk from the police department. And when we look now at some of the major arrests that are being made for the trafficking in the city, which I appreciate that work, right? Because we are being targeted. We have people coming from out of state to target us because of this epidemic that we are suffering from. But they are coming in, they are sizing up the city.
It's a predatory form of capitalism in a big way.
Right, but they know where to go.
Sure.
They know what houses have been set up and have been dealing, where dealings have been occurring and use has been occurring. It's easy for them to find out. Everybody knows. So all of a sudden, now we have the arrest happening, and people of a certain color. Why didn't we arrest people who were white, who were dealing with impunity for years out of some of these locations? And many people in our city know, they'll go, you know, anyone watching this will go, oh yeah, we got that house and it's over here. Oh yeah, we got a house and it's over here. You know, they know, and everyone knows that there's huge issues with our parking garages. There's a lot of activity in our parking garages. A lot of activity in our parks. You know, City Hall Park is a huge concern.
I was really disappointed when we had the presentation by the detectives who were, I think they were the drug detectives, and we had just heard a very long public comment where there were lots of people talking about drug dealing in City Hall Park, and I asked them, you know, you heard what people were saying, you know, what should we do about it? What are what are we going to do about it? And they were like, we're actually not going to be be arresting people there. We're not really gonna be stopping it. As the message that I got there.
There is no street crimes unit. It's a very important meeting to watch, October 10th. If you haven't watched that meeting, you need to watch that meeting, Burlington. It's very important because their presentation explained a lot. There is no street crimes unit, and that is why at the street level, nothing is being done. I
have my questions about whether nothing should be done until you hire folks.
I have questions about that too, but it's very difficult. Even when we do have our public safety committee meetings, my relationship with Murad is Chief Murad is kind of spilled over, and it's a difficult relationship. People watch these meetings; they can see how contentious they can get, and some people get concerned. Oh, you got to give him a chance. Well, how long is a chance? What is your definition of that? Because I've now been in this arena public safety arena for about over 4 years, 4.5 years now. And I can't get basic questions answered. And I get responses from other people in the public like, oh, that conversation wasn't okay, but not because of me. It's just not a good dynamic. Yeah. And I think, I don't know how to get, I don't. I've asked for help. I've been asking for help for 3 years. Sure. I got very vocal when the police commission was accused of being responsible for being the reason why officers weren't applying in department. That was outrageous. And so I brought up a lot about what happens when you have department heads and the administration attack people who volunteered for a commission. I mean, it was really extraordinary what was happening. But I would say that October 10th meeting is very important. It's very educational for the people of Burlington. I know not everyone has time to watch these meetings, but you have to watch this meeting because we need to hear about the work that they're doing, because that drug unit is doing good work in terms of the arrests that are being made.
The bigger houses.
Major trafficking. And we need the major trafficking stopped. We need to send a message that you can't keep coming up here with your drugs and poisoning our community.
There is something to be said to not allowing City Hall Park to be an open air drug.
I agree with that in other places. But I think too, we have to do balance, right? Because I was when I was interrupted and told it was an appropriate update, I was talking about balance. Because we do need the quote unquote law and order aspect, but we must have the harm reduction side. Right. Because people are coming here to sell. They are bringing a supply here because of the demand.
So talk about that. So talk about the harm reduction work
that
should be done, and that why it isn't being done.
Right. I would. There's several things. First of all, I want to give a shout out to Joe McGee, because he's tried to. When we look at the balance, we think of a seesaw. It was like law and order up here, but we don't have the officers. We've given the increase in the salary, we've given retention bonuses, we've given sign-on bonuses. They have a contract that protects them heavily, even ignoring important oversight and accountability. That was the CNA consultant that reviewed the police department recommended it. It was decided to do that because people were afraid of more officers leaving. I think that was a mistake, but I wasn't on the council at that time. But we did all of that. And so now they have the higher cap. They are well funded. They are the most funded department.
Yes, they are.
They are the most funded department. Why would we put more money there now? That doesn't make sense. We see what continues to happen, and we come back when they can make what they're budgeted at, because they're budgeted. They're nowhere near those numbers of officers.
Nowhere near.
Right. So we have to be very careful about what we promise people. When we say we're going to promise them more police officers, wait a minute, that cap is already increased and the money is there. So people can't control who applies. People can't control if they do apply, are they going to be qualified? People can't control if they apply and they're qualified and they go to the academy, will they finish the academy, right? Because that's an issue. We've lost people with regards to the academy. So the building back has gone very slowly. The police commission meets once a month. The police chief does, Chief Murray does his police report. He always has a page that says what is going on with regards to building back and how many officers there are. And that is something, if you don't have time to watch the whole meeting, that is attached in what's called Civic Clerk. And we have to do a video on Civic Clerk.
We probably do,
I think Town Meeting TV, we need to do a video on how to use Civic Clerk so people can find information. Jot that down and let's schedule that.
It can be really hard.
But people, you go to Civic Clerk and you can find and you can view that report. So if you don't have time to watch the meeting, you can see the information that's being presented. So we look at that. So when people say, oh, we're going to promise you more police, like, you can't do that. We do have to make sure that we're advertising correctly. One of my complaints was when they were blaming the police commission, I started looking around like, hey, I'm applying for the job. What information do I see? And I discovered that even though the council had increased the salary, they weren't advertising it. That even on the city's own website where you go to submit an application did not have the correct salary. And it took weeks to fix. And I talked to the mayor about it multiple times. Then I talked to someone else and it got fixed. No, it got updated. And then I had to bring it up a third time. So you're literally accusing people like it's your fault. It's the work of the police commission that people don't want to, and you know that's the perception. And shrug your shoulders. And it was really quite amazing to me. It's like
there's no accounting for
the city's not even advertising the correct price, and there's other areas. Even now you can find landing pages where we are not showing the correct benefits, you know, but why am I babysitting that, right? So that's a huge issue. Using digital advertising, properly advertising on job sites that people use, especially people moving state to state.
So improving recruitment is important.
It is.
Talk about the harm reduction stuff.
The harm reduction, let's get back to that. So that's very important. So harm reduction is basically doing things that help people get into recovery, right? Reduce the demand for these drugs, if you will. Harm reduction, let's talk about needle exchanges and needle kits that have like the equipment. Like some people feel this is enabling people. If you're giving them new needles, if you're giving them sterile water, if you're giving them equipment that they can cook with, if you're giving them testing supplies, people say this is enabling. And this is not enabling. It's if people are going to if they suffer from substance use disorder and they're going to use. So we need them to use in the safest way possible for a number of reasons.
We're skyrocketing in terms of overdoses.
But just from a basic safety standpoint, it is well documented. There is plenty of data going back to when the HIV epidemic AIDS started. There's plenty of data that people sharing needles leads to viral infections, you know, so HIV, hepatitis B, hepatitis C. And that can be not just among people who suffer from substance abuse disorder. They can pass it to their loved ones who may not suffer from that. And also it protects first responders. It protects city employees who work picking up needles and picking up garbage where uses occurred. It protects residents, including children, because we have had in our city instances where people have been pricked by used needles. So being able to do these needle exchanges is important to keep these other viral infections and diseases at bay.
All of the collateral problems.
Exactly, because we know our health system's already overburdened. They're not fully recovered from COVID. It's to protect them.
So where are we at with these sites?
We do a good, job of getting needles out, but we need an overdose prevention site. We need an overdose prevention site, which is a safe place where people can come and use. Now, people are like, that drives some people crazy. They're just like, you're enabling them. People are going to start using drugs. First of all, no one is going to start using drugs from an overdose prevention site or center, or OPC, as they call it for short. That is just not going to happen. That is just outrageous. That's fear-mongering. What it will do is, one, if someone overdoses, someone's right there. So it's going to do a couple of things in terms of containing where overdoses occur. It is also going to help with syringe litter, because right now needles are being left everywhere. Everywhere. We had parents who came to a city council meeting talking about needles found in the dugout. In the dugout when they're getting ready to do a Little League game. They are everywhere. We need to control syringe litter in a way that is just not happening right now. If you see needles, see, click, fix. See, click, fix to report that. So you would control where used needles are left, because at an overdose prevention center, they would collect those used needles. Can you get everybody in? No, you can't, but we can substantially change what's going on now. You also have, when they come in, they're going to be meeting people, right, who are not the police. Let's not play games. There's a stigma. If you talk to police, will you get arrested? People don't want to be dealing with police in that way. So we had to be honest about that. There are relationships that can be formed that could lead to recovery, because you're talking to someone that you start to trust. They're there with all the information on the services that are available. And we have a lot of compassion fatigue right now, but when you treat people with compassion and you acknowledge their pain, that's a way to pull them back.
It is at least a start. It is at least a start.
It's a start. It's a way to get them to think of recovering.
What is stopping us from doing that?
Well, there's a couple of things. First of all, at the state level, I've been very, very concerned about Governor Scott's disengagement. I don't feel he fully understands what is going on in Burlington. Even when he was running for re-election, when these issues were being brought up, he downplayed them. I've had many conversations with the mayor about this. I'm like, you say that Governor Scott gets it, yet he doesn't. He does not speak as a person who understands what's happening here as things continue to get worse.
What else?
I believe that if Governor Scott was more engaged, would come to the city, would talk to people, I think that would go a long way. I think he feels that we shouldn't be, I know he has stated, he does not believe we should use methods that aren't tested. When we look back at what Governor Shumlin did, he made a state of the state address was devoted to the opioid crisis back then, saying this is our top concern. We got to be thinking out the box. It's completely different type of leadership. And when we need that now, we don't have that from Governor Scott. So send an email, do a phone call, do a video, audio. We need Burlington to be talking to Governor Scott. We need Burlington to talk to all our legislative representatives. Our Chittenden team needs to be on the same page. They're not all on the same page. And that may be because not all of them live in Burlington, or they don't live near the affected areas. In the Old North End, we're really affected, and we've been affected for a while. It's all over the city now, but...
So we've only got, believe it or not, like just 5 more minutes.
Really? How'd that happen?
It's just the way it is. We'll have another chance to do this.
Overdose, laws. We have to change laws, but I think we should do it. They've got one working in New York City that is saving lives, getting people into recovery, and they just did it. And maybe we need to look at that. Let's just do it, show that it can work. Big shout out to the fire department. Burlington Fire Department has been extraordinary. I don't think people fully understand the amount of responses that they're doing to overdoses. They have done a rapid response unit. from the time that they talked about it, where members of the fire department went to Chief LaChance and said, we can do this better.
Yep.
You know, we think we can get a truck, we can supply it up.
That was real. That was real innovation and was initiative.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
And between that first conversation and getting it going, 3 weeks.
Yeah.
That's what we need.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I believe that the CARES team that was put under the police department, after seeing what the fire department has done, I believe we should be having serious conversations to move the CARES team to the fire department. I think it would be better managed there, and I think they could get that up and running. Let's move that.
Seeing
money.
public safety as more than just arresting people, more than just police out there. I mean,
Yeah.
it's important. Yeah. Deterrence is important, and you know, being able to stop people and give people consequences for doing things that are harmful.
Yes.
Is essential.
Yes.
But this is a big
This is a big problem. We cannot, this will not go away if demand is not addressed. And everyone needs to understand that and needs to be clear. As long as we have demand, there will always be someone to come here to sell. And that's just facts. And people don't want to hear that. It's facts. We cannot arrest our way out of it. We don't have the jail. We are exporting prisoners. One who just died in out-of-state prison. We have people dying in in-state prison. We got to look at that. Other safety issues is what's going on with our online incidents. I'm trying to do some research. I want the Public Safety Committee to talk about it. I'd like to have BPD talk about it. How are they triaging these cases? People don't get responses. Cases, I mean, they're told they won't be prosecuted, but the state's attorneys doesn't get everything. So that's a whole other thing too.
I mean, and you were talking about the dispatch and the training. That really does go to the need for oversight, for monitoring and auditing, and being able to look at the experience, look at the data, collect the engagement from the people, and then make recommendations. And I know that we're hopefully going to have a charter change that will clarify the role of the commission in regards to the monitoring of the department and their right to really be engaged with the creation of directives and trainings and the like, because at the end of the day, we as a community need to own our part in making our own selves safe. This is not something where you just say, "Oh, here, take care of it for me."
Right.
We all have, a role in it, but everybody has to have. There's got to be a system that can work. So the online reporting system, you and I both got a complaint from somebody in our neighborhood that was like, this thing doesn't work, and
I've talked to businesses. I've talked to. There's a lot of issues around it. So hopefully when we have our next public safety committee meeting, we're going to start to talk about it. I do want, as public engagement, I have asked Chief Murai directly multiple times, what can the residents of Burlington do to assist the police department during this time of limited resources? I don't get any engagement back with regards to that, and that's not okay.
I've had issues with what I think is a lack of innovation and creativity around the use of the community service officers and the community service liaisons. I know we're just sort of starting on that road, but there's plenty of opportunities in my estimation when people are out, when the city officials are out and about. Folks, they watch themselves a little bit more. You get a chance to get more engagement. You stop somebody from doing something that is not, necessarily what they're going to do.
Yes, but even with the fully staffed police department and even with the fully staffed CSOs, a big shout out to the CSLs because they're doing incredible work. Incredible work. We need like 6 more of them. We need more coverage 24/7. And we're not there yet. The CSOs, it's been interesting because their numbers go up and down, but it has proven to be a really good recruitment tool
Sure.
because people start to be a CSO and then they show interest in becoming an officer. So I don't want to say we lost some CSOs because they went to that next level, which is excellent. And the department has done some really good work in the diversification of the department, so definitely credit there. I don't want to say everything is bad, but I want to say that the lack of community engagement is a huge issue. Special shout out to Sarah Tim. She's talked to me, and I've also talked to her about things that I'd like to see with the department. And I think it's when I look at what was her training, like she'd been coming to MPA meetings. I was like, why didn't you ever speak? She'll speak during the open comment that you have, like a MPA public forum, for lack of a better term, but not always doing a presentation. I think she'd be great doing a presentation. She said, I'm waiting to be invited. I was like, you don't have to wait to be invited. This is how you do it. So someone wasn't giving her that information. And we need to look at that because she's a great resource and I supported that position. So let's have that resource out there. And she was great. She listened to things I was talking about. It's like, hey, if you're going to do this, you're going to put this information out there and you're going to put it on a web page. Who's tracking how many hits you're getting? Who's tracking what the engagement actually is and how effective it is? And so we talked about things like that. And she was like, what do you want to see? And I was like, I would like to see da-da-da-da-da-da. And I appreciated that a lot. But that's an example of another position to help the department. We just have to make sure she's utilized to her full potential. It's not her fault. I think that we just need to be.
Let's switch gears a little bit.
Yes.
Because I think we might have even a little bit more time.
Let's
Kevin back there. We're doing okay, Kevin. So good.
Okay, cool.
Thank you. Other hot things on the council. What do you?
The vote for which a lot of people equated with the F-35 mission. I think it was a difficult vote for me. I support the people who work for the National Guard.
You're talking about the lease extension,
and the MOU. And the MOU. And part of the issue around the lease is we cannot affect the mission. The city council cannot affect the mission.
With the lease.
Right, and members of the public didn't understand that. So there wasn't sufficient engagement about that, right? But then we're not given, it became like this whole big thing, we got to move because you can't have a lease under 25 years. And it turned out we were out of compliance as of July. So it was, that was not handled well in a transparent way, in a way of good engagement, and I fault the mayor for that. I think that McNeil was very, so many people were concerned about that, and there was a lot of misinformation about like, we're going to shut down McNeil. Like, no, a no vote does not shut down McNeil. And there was, thank you for the work that you did on that to
You're welcome. And we did actually differ in terms of that vote. It was not, which is fine.
Yes.
They're legitimate.
I think I would have voted. I would have voted yes if the amendments had passed.
Well, the ones on the ordinance passed. Yes, which would have made greater incentives to places like the medical center to do the transformation work that they need to do, which is really driving all of this.
And we will still yet to see that, because even though we had the medical center, they weren't too high strung on it, and they were very much. They said it was about the money, and maybe that's it. Maybe that's what motivates them to make change. To make a change. It's like, okay, we're going to get this money and this credit. We're not going to be.
It is quite possible that we will bring back a strengthened carbon fee ordinance that takes that's the step that we try to, and at least brings that to the voters. I'm working with folks to do that.
That's great.
We've got in terms of McNeil, we have now got a roadmap across the board for how to deal with the issues around the plant emissions, around the wood consumption, around the forestry practices. We've got to hold them to account, but it is a public entity, and it is something that if we as the people take the initiative and responsibility for, we hopefully and should be able to make sure that all the commitments that I worked on to get in there, are met. And if we don't get that, if they're not able to keep those commitments, it really will undermine what remaining trust there is in the community. So that's
really
critically important.
It really will, because we have to verify.
Absolutely.
And that's a huge issue with people.
Yeah.
There should be, you can say that the missing reports that a lot of people reference weren't relevant, but people don't know that if they can't see them, right? Yeah. So that created a lot of distrust. They are going to have to really deliver with tracking, and then tracking UVM. The important to make sure that they remain committed to what they say they want. And then will we be able to do anything with the university if we get it up and going, right? Because that's like a bigger picture. Long term, with only one customer.
There's a lot of change that's happening in climate, and unfortunately, I think that the warming planet is going to continue to force the acceleration. I mean, it's sometimes, if things just sort of stay the same, you don't have the impetus to move.
Right.
So
money interferes with so much. Money. But I mean, money in this case is the reason why the medical center wants to do it.
Yeah.
And I asked them directly at the meeting, if you weren't going to get these credits, would you do this? And they were like, no.
Yeah, we've got work. Luckily, this process revealed that there are really good people working with and at the medical center that we can partner with. And hopefully they got the message that, this is a priority. They are providing health care. They need to provide, that is their number one mission, but they need to do it in a facility that is not causing additional health problems.
Exactly.
It doesn't do anybody any good when we're struck by all these disasters, when we get all the wood smoke from Canada, and so it hurts our breathing, and then we got to go up to the hospital. So we've got to do our part on that.
We do have to do that. And then the Gateway block, I think that is of major interest to, I don't particularly like that name, but here we are. I think the city cares about the future of Memorial Auditorium in that space.
And we'll get that.
Look like?
We're going to get that by the end of March. But like the other things that we've been talking about tonight, that you've highlighted, it seems that it is likely that we'll get it at the last minute with no time to digest stuff, and with a decision that has to be made immediately.
That has to be made immediately.
It's a bad
and
way
that
to
is
govern.
not the way. It is a terrible way to govern. And then to be lectured about it, it is so frustrating. And it's just like, but this is the way, it's so frustrating. How can you, and many people asked about it, because I was attending MPAs that week. Many people asked about it, like, why would you guys vote on that? Because people didn't see it.
Sure.
And it did seem to me like it was, and I know that's not the intention, but it was like a backroom deal. Like, you're literally going to give us all this information on something that you want us to vote on the same day, and it hasn't been presented to the public. And that is not okay. That's not transparent, especially when you know how interested the public is in this space. We want development there, but people just don't want anything. And I think the public's made that very clear. So I think that we have had so much blight for so many years now, even before COVID. We had the hole in the ground. So people are frustrated, but that doesn't mean people are desperate. And I think this attitude that you've got to, to put us in that position, like, well, we're going to lose this, to say we're going to lose this because this funding, well, because of funding and all this other, and it's like, well, why didn't you tell us before? Why didn't you give us more time? This is not the way. So whoever is the next mayor, I hope they do something differently, because this has not been. It's not been okay, and at times I feel that it's like really being dishonest to the people of Burlington. And
I think we'll have the same issue with the UVM and our attempt to get them to take greater responsibility to solve the under housing of their students that they've over enrolled in a lot of ways, and that they're looking to.
I've said publicly that I don't think they understand how it's affecting the city. I don't think they understand how it's affecting their students. Many students have, like everyone else, have concerns about housing. And I think the way the rents have gone up in this city has affected our economy in other ways.
Oh, you can't get workers.
You can't get workers, but also students who have to, or people, period. Everyone who has to meet these extraordinary rents can't shop downtown. So when we're losing shoppers downtown, it's not all due to crime and how people feel downtown, especially people who come from outside of Burlington. But I talk to Burlingtonians who feel like there's nothing for me downtown.
Yeah, or I can't afford it.
I can't afford it.
You just can't afford it.
And they can't afford it. And that's an issue.
I'm paying everything for rent. Yep. Okay. So we have touched these other council matters, and I think our time is up. And
I feel like I just got here.
We just did get here. But we'll do this again.
Okay.
And
we should do it twice a month.
This would be fun, and maybe we can do that.
Yeah, we should do it twice a month.
So thank you. Thank you for watching again, and we'll see you next month. This is Burlington Progressives TV. Thanks. Bye.